know you and your work, but not everyone does. And even people who know you and your work don't always know your origin story. So would you be willing to just share a little bit how you came to start playing music together?
Sure. Was this 1, 2, 3? All started in a little shack on the Fox River.
We both hail from Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Met while we were in high school.
We had our first band in high school in 1963 or 4.
Whoa.
And Lou was playing the banjo in those days, and I wasn't. I was playing the baritone Luke. And we went on from there, and we spent. We didn't really play anywhere regularly until we got to Ontario, where we played in a blues band. I played the white fuzzy drums, and I was really bad at it. And Lou sang.
I was singing through. We couldn't afford to have more than one amp, so we had. I could afford a microphone, but I sang through the guitar player's amp. I'm sure it sounded just wonderful. That kind of imagined, but we played for free beer every Wednesday night at the York Hotel in London, Ontario. We both know the story so well. We can probably do it in the whole thing in unison. Anyway, those were the Canadian days. We played it. We lived in Canada during the Vietnam years, and when it became possible for Peter to come back to the States, we moved back to be closer to Madison. We missed Madison so much that we moved back here from Vancouver, BC, which is saying a lot from Madison.
And we've been pretty much playing up and down Williamson Street ever since.
That's true.
We had a little variety show kind of like this down at Gallery 853 Williamson Street.
And it was 1976.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And we would have I remember we had one guy that could play the Swedish national anthem on his teeth. We had somebody demonstrate hang gliding, which is a little difficult in an area like this. And we would play music. And then, we have played all up and down this street. And we ended up playing, starting in '77, at the Club du Wash every week for like almost 10 years.
They had never had music there before. We were invited to play by the bartender who needed to. He was so lonely that because nobody ever went to the Club du Wash. As a matter of fact, it was at that time it was such a grandiose name, everyone thought before. Of course, it later became a very, very fancy place. But we played there, and the reason that it was during those years it was an all acoustic music club. I bet 6 nights a week there was an acoustic band there because there were people who lived upstairs, so they couldn't have electric bands. Of course, after a while, I think they just decided that those people were on their own. Because I know there were people that were living there during the rock and roll years too, when it was very, very loud in the Club du Wash. We started touring in 1985 and still played at the Club du Wash occasionally until it burned down in 1995.
But we played all over the country since then, from San Diego to northern Maine to Minnesota to Portland to
Texas
Canada,
even, and
British Columbia, all over the place. Texas, Missouri.
not too much in the deep south.
No, not too much in the deep south.
And in Roma. Anyway, we've been writing our own music during that whole time. We never did others. During the first few gigs, I think we were doing covers because we didn't have enough material to fill a whole night.
In our first night at the Club de Wash, I remember we did 3 sets, and we did 3 sets by doing the first set over again. But everybody was so drunk, nobody knew.
Eventually, we made it a rule to only ever do our own tunes because we were writers, and even though it may have been more popular had we done other people's songs, at least at the beginning, we were convinced that if we didn't do our own songs, that would be just not as much fun. So we were always played our own music, and
Already other people were playing other songs better than we could, so we were sort of, by default, we ended up playing those songs.
I promise I wouldn't have asked you to come out of retirement and play other people's songs for us, so I'm very glad. Can you tell us about how you write? Who writes what? What's your process?
Yeah, I write the lyrics and
I write the music.
right, and that's it. But it happens different ways, you know. I mean, usually I'll write the lyric to a song, and I'll use a dummy melody, you know, just to keep the meter right. I'll use Jingle Bells or something. I'll write a song to that, and then I'll give it to Louie without telling her what, you know, the dummy song was, and so she's stuck with having to come up with something on her own.
Which is a challenge, of course, because I have to figure out what the meter is. And often Peter's dismayed that I have really come up with not what he had in mind.
No, it's not a waltz, Louie.
We could probably do a whole night talking about compromise with the music, and because there were stressful moments. Peter would really, you can imagine you find a poem and there was one song that when I wrote the melody, and without realizing I hadn't left any room for breaths. Turned out I wrote a melody in
So we made a compromise. Lou would sing and I would breathe.
It ended up, what's the song? I wrote it in 5/4 time, but there literally was no room to breathe.
That's the problem with 5/4 time. But it is interesting. It is, anybody who's done it knows how challenging and interesting it is to do collaboration. Like one thing that would happen that always surprised me, I would write a song and use a dummy melody, and it would have a certain mood and so on, and then I'd give the words to Lou, and she would reinterpret the mood of the words, and my first reaction was always, no, like that, and then I'd let it, but I would try to shut up for a while and let it sink in and realize she had a better idea than I did as far as the mood went.
And that wasn't, of course, always true. A lot of times Peter had to totally set me straight that I had found the wrong meaning. But I always tried. The challenge in writing music to an existing poem is to try to enhance that poetry so that you come up with, you actually add something to that song with your music, and to enhance it or make it better. And sometimes I would take a little different tack and kind of turn a corner, and sometimes that was not in Peter's plan, and it took him a little while to get over the shock of it.
But sometimes, like I would write some kind of a quiet little folk song or something, and Lou would interpret it as a loud, heavy metal rock song. And sometimes that conflict would make it a really weird song, which is what we were really after all along.
That's right. So I think the nature of compromise has a lot to do with how our relationship has lasted. I think the fact that we had to, if we were going to continue writing together, we had to learn to get along through the music, and that, of course, was the hardest part, but also the most fun part. But it's just hugely challenging.
It continues to change too, because now, we're both 130 years old.
I'm 131.
And our range, I mean, my voice is, I can't sing as low as I used to, and Lou can't sing as high as she used to, and we're still able to meet on about 2 notes, you know, so.
It is really, it's absolutely, totally challenging because there's so much of our repertoire. We can't play it all, like Double Yodel, a song that many of you know and like I know, but we can't do it. The only way we can possibly do it is if we switch parts. And Peter sings the high part and I sing the low part, which we've tried and it does not work. It's not funny.
I was hoping to hear it.
But you'll just have to imagine it, because it's too awful to endure.
So can we talk about your relationship? Like one thing that I've always admired, and I know a lot of other people who do, is that you were married at one point and you continued such a lovely partnership and
Yeah, well, we actually didn't really turn into a musical duo until we separated.
And I think that that's really true, because we played music together on and off from the time that we met. And it was through music and usually playing with other people. We were much more successful. But when we came back to Madison and actually we played with 2 other guys who were engaged in they all had another band that they liked a lot better than playing with us, and eventually quit our band and
They quit when Lou started playing the accordion. It was not, but eventually we were a duo, and it was the only thing that we could do if we wanted to continue to play what we were playing, because by then half of our repertoire was songs that Peter and I had written. Actually, at that time I wasn't even writing the music. I've always been musical, played a lot of instruments and sang, but I didn't write until 1981, I guess, during our second LP. Yeah, our first LP, I think I wrote all the melodies too, and they're all pretty lame. Anyway, it was great when Lou started writing. But yeah, we like to say our band survived a brief marriage.
But I really think that it makes a lot of difference that a lot of bands that last a long time and have enduring friendships endure, because at the end of a practice, somebody goes home. You can't fight anymore. You gotta just say, okay, we're done for the day. This is as far as we got. We're not gonna, because it is I can't stress enough. I think that I've learned a lot about diplomacy from Peter, because he does know how to tell you that he really, really doesn't like something without hurting your feelings. And that's a huge thing. It's just unbelievably huge.
You gotta figure that out, particularly when you just have written something, or you're just halfway into something. Somebody can ruin it by saying, oh, I don't like that, and you throw it away, and you believe them as a knee-jerk kind of a thing. So it really does take diplomacy. I just wanted to add that Lou and I have been married to other people for a long time now, and and Lou and I, our friendship has always been strong, a strong friendship ever since, through the marriage, before the marriage, after the marriage. We've always been good pals.
Also had something to do with living pretty much by ourselves in Canada for 5 years.
Yeah.
That was hard, wasn't it? You think I wasn't expecting to feel so much like we were living in a different country when we moved to Canada. The whole thing was brought home so much. I don't know how, they don't teach us about very much government besides our own in the United States. In the school system, you know about setup that is made within the government setup that we had. So when we moved to Canada, where they had parliamentary rule, the second month we were there, honest to God, we were watching TV or listening to the radio, and they said, "The government has fallen." Well, that meant the Conservative Party had not been able to maintain its majority in the Congress. It did not mean that people, like they were back home, fighting in the streets with the police.
We got a lot to learn.
But that was 1968.
So, oh, sorry.
Which was a big year in the United States.
Let's see, I was born. That's fine. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a lot of younger people here, and I'm not sure if people know explicitly why you might have gone to Canada, and even people who do, I'd love to hear a bit of that story if you would like to share.
A bit of why we went.
Yeah, why you went to Canada, what was going on
Well,
here.
I had the Appleton is in Outagamie County. Outagamie County has a notoriously conservative draft board. They've never had, at least when I was of age, they had never had a conscientious, they've never allowed a conscientious objector to happen. You were really stuck. And I remember going on a bus for my Army physical, I was
He
drafted.
was actually drafted, and
Huh?
there was a warrant out for his arrest, actually, in the United States while we were in Canada.
But before that, I remember, oh God, I remember I had to go to back up to Appleton to get on this bus to be given to Milwaukee for an Army physical. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. And we were lined up to get on this bus, and they were giving out cigarettes, and all these old guys with their old Army uniforms on were saying, "Kill a gook for us, kill a gook for us." And it blew my mind, and we went and I went down and had my physical, and I refused to sign this loyalty oath that you're supposed to sign. And they had to call me into another room and give me the big interview, and I was scared out of my mind. But everybody was talking about, I know people were sitting around on the terrace at the Union. That's all people were talking about. I remember one guy had a motorcycle biker, and he said he was going to go home and chop his fingers off, put his fingers in the chain of the bite of his motorcycle. So
Just his trigger finger, he figured that would be good enough.
I know another guy who ate a whole quart of salt and jelly
Oh,
to get his
right.
blood pressure.
Did it get him out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
It was horrible.
the draft is something that I pray none of you ever have to worry about, because it was something that absolutely dominated our lives from the age, 17 to 21, I guess. We were 20 years old when we got married to go to Canada. Just another.
In Canada, in Ontario, you had to be 21 to buy booze, and Lou was a couple of months older than I am. So I'd stand outside of the booze store while she went
I
in.
could buy the bottle of wine to celebrate having gotten into Canada. But anyway, music has been a constant presence in our lives, and we talked about, we told Stephanie how much we liked the theme that she had chosen for this Music Makes Everything Better, which I think everybody has, especially people who make music themselves. But you don't have to make it yourself to make music make you feel better. And I'm happy to know that people feel better when they hear our music, because they feel better when they laugh. And they feel even better when they sing. So that's the secret of our success. We want to play a song that we wrote just about that, and this is the, how music can be your what am I looking for? The house that you can go into when there are no other houses open to you. Yes. Thank you. I know. If we're in C.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Yes, we are.
She kind of did a tour when you crave a haven, but the world is too bizarre. Plus you feel unqualified to wish upon a star. Or you feel rejected and completely disconnected. Not to mention unprotected, you can always play guitar.
Or if not guitar, and you're too glum to give a hoot. Plus there is a chipmunk stirring chestnuts in your boot. When your spirit's flagging, 'cause your discount muffler's dragging, and your dinner guests are gagging, you can always play the flute.
Or if not the flute and your demeanor's Windex blue. Plus you feel you'll never find the oof to pull you through. When your heart's in trouble and your booze expenses double and your dreams have turned to rubble, you can always play kazoo.
Or if not kazoo and your demeanor, or if not kazoo and all the walls are closing in. Plus you don't know where you're bound or even where you've been. When your cookie crumbles and your sweetie trips and tumbles and your stomach boils and rumbles, you can still play violin.
Or if not the fiddle and you're going round the bend. Plus you feel your charmed existence drawing to an end. When your gods are sickly and humanity seems prickly, you should not forget too quickly that the banjo is your friend.
Or if not the banjo and your friends don't get along. Plus you try diplomacy but always get it wrong. When you feel deflated 'cause you're over-medicated and the pills are overrated, you can't always beat a drum.
Sing a song.
You can always sing a song.
Or if you, sometimes we write as we go along. Or if you can't sing and feel your passion growing numb. Plus you hit a hammer on the hangnail of your thumb. When you feel you're losing all the choices of your choosing and your therapist is snoozing, you can always beat a drum.
Or if not a drum and you are fretful and forlorn. Plus your soul is tattered and your body's old and worn. When your faith is floppy 'cause your best laid plans were sloppy and you're living your jalopy, you can always blow the horn.
If you're living your jalopy, you can always blow the horn. I don't know. Excuse me.
I think we're just going to play another song because we're getting comfortable here still. Obviously, not quite. Things feel a little bit weird, but anyway, I'm so glad you guys came. We have all familiar faces in our audience, so that's great to see.
We have songs about everything. You know, you write songs for 100 years and you end up with a song about everything. We have a song that ends up with us singing to an empty folding chair. We're not going to do that today. These chairs don't fold.
But you'll find that sometimes where I was, actually Peter had, in Peter's word writing, I have learned a lot about how words express things. And sometimes words just themselves, without the meaning, the way they're put together, it's funny, just works like it's funny. And that's what's this, the whole point of this song is called Did Ya Ever?
This is in G, right?
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
Did you ever tie a tongue? Did you ever meet a mate? Ship a sheep or shovel Chevrolet? Host a ghost or wave a wolf away? Did you ever lose a lease? Did you ever change a tin? Patch a portrait, play a baritone? Milk an elk or sell a telephone? Did you ever screw a screw, nail a nail, see the sea? Did you ever drain a drain, judge a judge, flee a flea? Did you ever dream a dream, dodge a dodge, switch a switch? Did you ever stitch a stitch? Did you ever twist a wrist? Did you ever break a brick? Soak a sock or pick a pickle up? Rent a tent or pitch a wiki up? Did you ever drug a bug? Did you ever break a bike? Catch a perch or hitch to Baltimore? Taste a vest or pin a pinafore? Did you ever drink a drink, swing a swing, sigh a sigh? Did you ever plant a plant, dance a dance, fry a fry? Did you ever peel a peel, moon a moon, latch a latch? Did you ever scratch a scratch? Did you ever crack a jack? Did you ever lose a tooth? On the National and Angelou, bust the band or do the boogaloo? Did you ever flaunt a flute? Did you ever mow a moor? Push a piglet up an apple tree? Pass a class or more of 53? Bowl of 53. Did you ever fax a fax, check a check, brush a brush? Did you ever fool a fool, wish a wish, crush a crush? Did you ever squash a squash, lock a lock, con a con? Did you ever yawn a yawn? Did you ever farm a farm? Did you ever raise a rose? Or to barge or buy a bungalow? Take a token to the radio? Did you ever walk a walk? Did you ever sketch a catch? Weave a wig or rug an aqualung? Did you ever tie a tongue?